My name is Colette Kane and I am the Director in NIAO who led the review of planning in Northern Ireland. This was an unusual review as it covers both central and local government, and the report is therefore from both the Comptroller and Auditor General and the local government auditor. We undertook this review of the planning system because it's so important to the economy, the environment and local communities. When it works effectively, it can have a key role in supporting economic growth, creating places that people want to work, live and invest in. Planning is important to people, and the public need to trust and understand decisions being made about their local area. The Audit Office regularly receives concerns about planning decisions, implying a lack of confidence in the way the system operates. In 2015, a new two-tier system for planning was established in Northern Ireland, and responsibility for delivering the majority of operational planning functions passed to local councils. The Department for Infrastructure retained a central role and is responsible for oversight of the whole planning system. Our report looked at how effectively the planning system has operated and how well it has been governed since 2015. The planning system has three main functions which are mainly delivered by local councils. For many of these functions we found performance had been poor. Each council was responsible for preparing a local development plan that should direct and control the scale and type of development in its local area. It was expected that all councils would have a local development plan in place within 3.5 years. However, more than 6 years into the process, no council has managed to complete one. In fact, recent estimates are that it will be 2028 before there is a plan in place in every council. In the absence of local development plans, councils must make planning decisions with reference to the existing local policies that are in place. In some cases, the plans covering particular parts of a council area are over 30 years old and do not reflect the current needs and priorities of the area. During the review, councils told us of the extent of staff resources required to prepare local development plans, with costs ranging from 1.7 million to 2.8 million per council to date. We consider there is an opportunity for the Department to review the process and consider if it is proportionate. The most important planning applications in terms of their ability to enhance the overall well-being in Northern Ireland are regionally significant and major planning applications. Major applications should be processed within an average of 30 weeks, but performance against this target has been consistently poor. We find that around 3/4 of major and regionally significant applications are not processed within this time frame. In fact, 1 in 5 applications took more than 3 years to process. We also found there was substantial variation in the timeliness and performance of individual councils in processing major applications. Our report recommends the Department and councils work together to place a focus on improving the performance of these most important planning applications. Effective enforcement is critical to ensuring the planning system is able to control development and also to underpin the integrity and credibility of the system. We had concerns about variations in how enforcement cases are resolved by councils. For example, in one council, 28% of enforcement cases were deemed not expedient to pursue, compared to a rate of 9% in another council. This could lead to uneven application of the rules and risks the credibility of the planning system if decisions are perceived not to be applied fairly and consistently. Our review identified a number of systemic issues which have contributed to the poor performance of the planning system. We heard concerns about a lack of specialist skills across the planning system, which is affecting a number of areas, including local development plans and complex development applications. The report also outlines significant concerns about the financial sustainability of the planning system. As the complexity of planning cases has increased, the costs for delivering planning services since 2015 have significantly outpaced the income received from planning fees. There has been a consistent need to subsidise planning with other public funding. We have urged the Department and councils to work together to ensure the planning system is financially sustainable in the longer term. We also find that the planning system has to deal with a significant volume of poor quality planning applications. The current legislation sets the bar far too low for what makes a valid application. The result is that dealing with these applications takes time and resources which are already scarce. Processing a planning application often requires technical or specialist knowledge that doesn't exist within council planning teams. When this happens, statutory consultees provide officials with the information they need to make a decision on whether to approve an application or not. Statutory consultees are supposed to respond to planning authorities within 21 days, but response times have been consistently poor, particularly on major applications. The poorest performance is by DFI Rivers, a part of the Department for Infrastructure, who only respond in time to around 40% of all consultations. We also looked at the process council planning committees use to make planning decisions and found that these vary considerably. Planning committees can and should delegate a significant proportion of their decisions to professional planning officers. However, we found that this wasn't always the case. Some planning committees look at every application proposed for refusal, for example. It wasn't clear to us that this leads to better decision making and would inevitably cost more and take longer to process. Our report also highlights a variation in overturn rates across councils. Between 2018 and 2020, around 1 in 8 applications decided by planning committees was made contrary to planning officers' advice. This varied significantly between councils, and in one council with the highest rate, almost 1 in 3 decisions were overturned by the planning committee. The nature of these overturns is also important. Around 90% were cases where the committee granted planning permission against official advice to refuse. 40% of these cases related to single houses in the countryside. We were particularly concerned by the lack of transparency in this area. Our review found that reasons for overturning officer advice were not clearly recorded. Our report highlights an urgent need to improve record keeping so that the public understand and trust the decisions being made in their local area. Finally, our report identified fundamental issues with silo working, so much so that we concluded that the planning system isn't operating as a single joined-up system, but a series of organisations that don't interact well. A successful planning system will depend on all those involved working in partnership to ensure that the right information is provided at the right time to let the right decisions be made. One of the biggest challenges is ensuring that there is leadership for the system as a whole. It is clear that the system is struggling and in need of strong leadership. We concluded that the department is well placed to provide this, but to date has been slow to respond to the challenges. You can read the whole report on our website at www.niauditoffice.gov.uk. Thank you for listening.